Today's podcast is purely educational and meant for objective and impartial analysis.
Grand Rising, y'all. I'm Aila Awesome, and I like to dissect pop culture topics and connect them to ethical concepts.
I'm grateful to have y'all tune in to this metaphorical, pragmatic, cheesy space cake I'm baking today in this week's episode of Existential Star Stuff. We all know names like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, and they were known more as painters and sculptors, but they were also renowned inventors, engineers, and scientists. For example, Da Vinci conceptualized the helicopter, and Michelangelo worked as an architect and engineer. These men saw no boundaries between the arts and sciences. If your noggin developed on the western part of the globe, you were familiar with schools integrating science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through curriculum development to encourage fostering that willingness to learn at a younger age. Now, its integration has since implemented arts, and it's now formally known as STEAM in the educational realm. For me, this is a huge win, as it bridges that gap and traditional divide that academic subjects give students, and it allows them a chance to combine concepts and knowledge from across disciplines to create deeper understanding and solve real-world problems through meaningful, engaged learning. I want to be a part of that initiative, and I'm an advocate for collaboration and working through the creative process. So with that said, when I started this ethics project, I didn't realize there's so much in our current trends that provide subject matter to this overall initiative, and I'm hoping to create a dialogue and consider all ethical concepts and theories. So if you're listening and you're interested, I want to hear what you have to say. And if there's a topic you want to hear about, I'd love to learn more. Please feel free to reach out to me on my website, existentialstuff.com, or any other socials. I will add the links below. And let's find the reason behind the why together.
So, I did take a bit of a break as I am a student, and I needed to focus on adult stuff and immerse myself in not so adult stuff like video games, honorable mention, Animal Crossing.
For those of you unfamiliar with ACNH, Animal Crossing is a social simulation video game series developed by Nintendo and created by Katsuya Iguchi and Hisashi Nogami. And I apologize if I butcher those names. Please correct me. I'm open to constructive feedback. It is an open map type of game that is continuous, and there is no way to win or really complete it. So Animal Crossing has a lot of educational elements relating to STEAM. Mathematically, it's connected to covering debt, mortgages, crowdfunding, making money, savings and interest investments. The first thing you have to do, well, theoretically you don't have to do it, but with Tom Nook, he's quite the loan shark. It helps you build your very own home, and since there's only so much storage, you're going to want to expand, and expansion is the American dream. So once you have one room, you're going to want more, and you'll try to pay off your loan quickly, and as soon as you do that, you can just keep going. It's like a never-ending cycle of debt and repayment, like real life. Yay! Fortunately, it's far easier to make money in the game since all you have to do is collect stuff and sell it. But financial literacy is a very key part, and so is science. Discussions with younger minds on fish, bugs, sea creatures, fossils, ecosystems, weather, astrology. There are social studies elements, geography. I mean, you have your own island, cultural traditions around the world, and it develops that ethical sense of community. And I can go on with that, especially talking about the museum, but artistic elements in this game are also pretty key. In relation to the artistic elements, there are vast opportunities. You can create your own clothing and your villagers can wear them. You can create patterns and images that can be placed around your village or on items. You can craft items using natural resources found on your island. You can design so many things. Some other art concepts for discussion would be the music. You can create your own little like toony bop things, the art in the museum, fashion and textiles, landscaping. I really want to touch on that artistic component of the landscaping aspect because I feel like it also touches on architecture and engineering, which is heavily integrated into the game. That it's like my favorite part. It may also be why I got lost in the existential star sauce. But I love the concept of terraforming in this game. So, terraforming is the transformation of a surface to fit our needs. When we discuss this in a cosmic sense, we are talking about taking an inhospitable world and changing it to become habitable for humans. So, what does this process entail? Is it possible and is it ethical? And how are video games like Animal Crossing preparing us for the monumental undertaking? The term terraforming was coined in July 1942 in an issue of Astounding Science Fiction by Jack Williamson. Typically, this concept refers to the manipulating of atmosphere and the surface of a celestial body to be suitable for humans and call it home. So theoretically, this could be done with a variety of planets and moons. Discussions usually center around our two nearest neighbors, Venus and Mars. In the 60s and 70s, renowned astronomer Carl Sagan published several articles proposing terraforming these planets. He theorized that by introducing algae into the atmosphere of Venus, the abundance of carbon dioxide would be converted into organic compounds, which could dramatically reduce the runaway greenhouse effect that chokes the surface at a temperature of 900 degrees Fahrenheit. He also suggested that by using a dark material or planting dark plants at the polar ice caps of Mars, it might be possible to melt the frozen water and heat the planet to a more warm temperature, utilizing the abundance of CO2 in the atmosphere. Both of these plans address only a portion of the issues involved with terraforming a planet, but they are possible nonetheless. NASA, the European Space Agency, and the China National Space Administration have all discussed plans for the long-term habitation of Mars and the Moon, but not with any intention of terraforming. Colonies of hundreds, even thousands of humans are possible with technology currently being developed within our lifetimes. But what does that all mean from the standpoint of conservation? Should we treat these places with the same leave no trace courtesy we try to treat our nature preserves? Or are they a new frontier for humanity to conquer and bend to our whim? Great care is taken with every spacecraft to disinfect it, cleanse it of any trace of organic life from Earth in the chance that a microbial hitchhiker might take root elsewhere. This is particularly important when visiting places like Mars where life may have existed at some point in its history, or even currently. The same applies to probes sent to Jupiter or Saturn, where moons with liquid water are believed to be hospitable for life. Contaminating these places with Earth life would sabotage any hope of discovering whether life already existed there. In 1977, the Viking landers heated Martian soil to analyze the gases it released. They detected chloromethanes, an organic molecule containing chlorine. This might have been the first clue that life once existed on Mars, as we discovered a complex hydrocarbon. Still, researchers ultimately dismissed this as a contamination originating on Earth. 35 years later, the Curiosity rover found those same molecules, likely confirming the original findings. But what does this mean? Hydrocarbons do not necessarily mean that life once existed on the red planet, but they are a biomarker, a flagpost left by the processes of life reproducing. Without careful examinations of soil samples, it is hard to conclude. Still, the Perseverance rover will bring us one step closer. Eventually, crewed missions to Mars will finally reveal many of its secrets. Let's say we prove definitively that life never existed on Mars. Does that mean we should have free reign to reform the planet? Even if it does hold traces of life, why should that stop us? The ethical dilemma of colonization defines how we will venture out into space. Even by visiting Mars with our robots, we have irrevocably changed its landscape in a small way. By placing human habitats, we will take it one step further. The thirst for knowledge drives our discovery missions, but once we have learned all we can from the barren and irradiated soil, is it ours to do with as we please, or should we leave it for nature to run its course? SpaceX plans to use its Starship vehicle to carry thousands of humans to Mars over the next few decades. The goal is to make humanity an interplanetary species, both as a stepping stone towards the stars and somewhat of a backup plan should the Earth deteriorate. Their project ultimately involves terraforming the atmosphere and surface. In a study from philosophynow.org, cosmocentric ethical constructs are advocated for. Paul York concludes his article by citing that moral reckoning would no longer be a straightforward matter. Moral considerability is not the same as moral significance. Just because an entity is admitted to moral consideration or the moral community by ascribing to its intrinsic value, it does not automatically follow that it will have the same moral significance as other members of the moral community, such as human beings. Our neighboring planets are not the only destinations within our reach. An excellent candidate for the exploration is the asteroid belt. Most asteroids are rich in iron, contain nickel, cobalt, and silicon, all of which can be used to develop habitable infrastructure. Most importantly, many hold frozen water. The low gravity and the wealth of resources make the asteroid belt a significant waypoint on our journey into the outer solar system and beyond. What exactly waits us from beyond? So far, we have discovered 1,780 planets orbiting around the other stars, with 16 of them being rocky planets within their sun's habitable zone. These numbers will undoubtedly grow in the coming years, but this means we already have a handful of candidates for interstellar travel destinations. When we arrive, we will have no choice but to adapt ourselves and the environment we find to suit our needs, as this journey will undoubtedly be a one-way trip. Who might be there to welcome us when we arrive? Will we be familiar to them? Is it Tom Nook? During the pandemic's unprecedented times, adapting and overcoming was a mantra I saw ring through organizational cultures. I like to think Animal Crossing helped many people of varying ages acclimate. Still, I can't help but dissect questionable ethics raised in communities through Reddit subforums and blogs alike. For example, users can cheat through time travel or going to treasure islands and obtaining miles and bells and items. The museum also has a record of aquatic life, insects, fossils, and art. You have to get it from Red, who is a very sus character, might I add. And he also sells fakes. So it's suffice to say, or ask, is this art stolen? That really cute owl Blathers encourages you to bring him all new species you collect on the island. Blathers only accepts one example per species, and you can unload the rest of those animals into your island store, which would be illegal in the real world. Sure, I'm profiting, but at whose expense? There is no way to win or lose, and it's not like you can go to jail. It's the one bit of consistency and dependability in my life that I have right now, and I'm sure a lot of people can say the same, even after the COVID times. The animation is adorable, the music is soothing, and the relationship between cause and effect is so predictable. We need predictability. After all, I feel like I still do. Now, piggybacking on terraforming, as I said earlier, it's like my favorite part of this game. Many people already have a knack for terraforming without even realizing it. The popularity of games like Animal Crossing and Minecraft have introduced this concept to the masses, and it's helping develop young minds to be fit to solve puzzles that await us on Mars and beyond. Minecraft specifically teaches aspects of coding and engineering that are essential to STEAM fields. Advanced problem-solving skills will be a critical part of everyday life beyond Earth. It also sparks the creativity to visualize what they would want to build and shape their landscape to suit their needs. That is terraforming in a nutshell. This is also explored in Animal Crossing, where players use terraforming to craft their ideal landscape. It requires visualization, planning of resources, and an execution of ideas to achieve goals. These games are shaping young minds to prepare them for the spacefaring of the future. Microsoft has already embraced this by creating an entire division to better address the potential via Minecraft education, which is something that develops lesson plans and activities designed to help teachers harness the power of learning through gaming. So virtual games, virtual reality simulations bring the average person closer than ever to experiencing life off Earth. For many, these strategy games where you build the infrastructure to sustain human life make the actual missions to colonize the planet proposed by NASA and private companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX feel more achievable. The developers relied heavily on NASA's resources, including topological maps and research concepts. So are open world games like Animal Crossing educating developing minds and navigating honor codes, integrity, or challenging concepts of veracity?
I would love to hear what you guys think. I mean, is this a loose association? So this week I won't be dropping an NFT, but if you guys have any ideas or an art concept you want me to consider in connection to both of the topics that I kind of interconnected together, feel free to let me know, and I can try to draw something up and add it to the open seas. Feel free to drop by existentialstarstuff.com if you want to provide additional feedback or contribute. If you like what you hear, feel free to subscribe or drop a like on YouTube or check out the socials. They are all live and I am active. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Existential Star Stuff. This is Aila Awesome signing off, and I hope that you guys stay safe and stay golden.